Let's jump right in the world of fitness tech from a geographical perspective. Ron, I think that is your chapter already.
Yeah. I'm good. Let's kick it off. Yeah. So basically, as always, we talk about the format of how much investment have we seen every year, and fitness is a really growing space. I think that's been the trend. I mean, we kind of made the decision to do a fitness tech report at the start of the year. Our previous reports have shown us how big the fitness market is, and then to kind of watch it more closely in 2020, because you see this big giant pillar on the right hand side of this graph. That's what 2020 has been. It's been a record year. I mean, the number of 1.37 is only counting funding till the end of October, but we already have numbers in November and big deals in December that the figure for the year is definitely going to cap out closer to the 2 billion mark than anything else. The other interesting thing I like about this chart is the trend you see. 15 and 16, 300 million or thereabouts each year, big numbers invested in fitness. But 2017 was, I guess, the kickoff year. In May 2017, there was a big round of investment, 325 million that went into Peloton. And I think that really was a tipping point for the industry. And you saw this trend of more and more players entering the market with, or rather, let me say, more and more investors backing big solutions in the space. You saw a shift from 2017 to 2018. Immediately, it just went up 3 times. That's a big jump, yeah. 2019 again has crossed a billion, so a big significant figure in that year. And 2020, I already talked about. I'm going to point you to the bottom half of the slide as well, or the last third, but the average ticket sizes, and you can see how that's been trending. As always, average ticket size in the last year is a bit inflated because we don't have as many deals. We don't certainly have all the big deals. It comes down a bit, but still it's doubled from the 18 and 19 levels to 2020, over 20 million. The other big thing in 2020 is the fact that we saw 10, actually 11, if you count the Calm deal that happened, 11 $50 million plus investment rounds. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of big deals that we saw in the fitness industry. Also, look at the median numbers. You can see those trending up as well. So all in all, it's pointing one way, and there are a lot of reasons for it. We're going to come to the trends of what are the big sectors that are particularly attracting this investment. Ben is going to walk you through some great companies that we like as well. But in the first section, we just talk about it from an overall point of view, and geography is a big part of it. Where is this money going? In which parts of the world? Yeah, it's North America and primarily the US, but we'll come to that in a second. But in terms of the continental flow, I think the big one from this is you see how tall that first tower is, and it's 7 times the figure invested in Europe, 3.5 times, obviously, the figure invested in Asia. But the other gray line is also worth noting. Nearly 400 deals in North America, and Europe is not far behind there, right? It's nearly 320 deals in the period that we analyzed since 2015, which is an interesting indicator. We've seen this before. Europe's or the number of deals that happen in Europe are pretty high. Average deal tickets, deal sizes, and median deal sizes tend to be lower. We've seen this across the sports tech industry, even in football tech to an extent. But the gap has never been this big. And I think that this is a product of American investors really, when they double down, and fitness has been that industry where they have been making these huge investments. Look at the average ticket size, 12 million compared to this nearly 3 million, not 2.5 million in Europe. Asia staying pretty close to the North America there at about 12 million average ticket size. Now going into the countries, here again you see a big difference. The US 3.5 billion, which is of course the US accounts for 65% of the entire funding that we have seen since 2015. That's a big chunk sitting in one country. Clearly far and away the leader. And look at the gap again. The US in 3.5 billion. China at 500 million in second place, India at 300 million, so 400 million in third place. So big gap, first of all, between first and second, again, nearly 7 times. But then it kind of bunches up, and you see the emerging markets, and that's an interesting trend. China is a big consumer market. India is a big consumer market. Brazil, growing markets with large populations. And fitness is becoming important in all of these markets. Brazil is so high on this list primarily because of a single deal in 2019, which was in Gym Pass, one investment round of 300 billion, which we've actually covered in the report for people who have gone through the report. We've got a fantastic interview from Gym Pass, so please make sure to check that out as well. But those three countries, what were formerly BRIC nations, and today are just high consumer consumption markets. Really interesting to see that fitness is trending across all of those. Then we come to the European nations, Germany, UK, France, always in the conversation. Always interesting to see how things trend in Europe. In terms of number of deals, I think that's the interesting one. The US is still clearly number one. This is just investment rounds, investment amounts. The US is clearly number one with over 364 deals to be exact over the period that we analyzed. And in second place is a European country, UK, actually, with 111 deals. So big gap to the US, but still it has significantly more deals than China, India, and Brazil, which are at about 40 to 50 deals in each of those regions. The other interesting thing is not just about the funding, it's about where these startups come from. 40%. So this is not the amount invested, this is just where the number of startups, because we had about, 1,600 plus startups that we analyzed. 40% of them come from the US. No surprises there. UK is the second biggest market. And here you see more European representation. Germany and France in the top 5. Australia comes in, really big market. We love the Aussies and all the stuff that they do for the sports industry. You see great solutions come from down under. A lot of horsepower behind that market, a lot of adrenaline and a lot of momentum that builds. And you can see that in the fitness industry as well. More European states in the rest of the list. But before we go to the cities, I'm going to drop a quick poll. Yeah. So as always, we start with the countries, and we talk about which are the leading sports tech or fitness tech markets in this case. But which city do you think is the number one generates the most amount of funding in the global landscape? Yeah, you see 4 options: London, New York, Beijing, and San Francisco. I've given you a couple of clues already for the eagle-eyed people. Of course, you think it's US, yeah, probably so, but which one? New York and San Francisco are big startup markets. Answers are flooding in. Oh my God, we've got 8 answers. That's maybe 25% of you. What are the rest of you doing, guys? Come on. If you're going to get your beer, that's a decent, but like come back in as well. Like drop us a response. Okay, now it's filling up. London, Beijing has got a shout. 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to call Claude. Yeah, number 1 spot goes, of course, to New York City. Only 50% of you got that right. Fair shout. Decent split between the answers. San Fran, I think, is a decent guess because of all the great startups that come from there, but you see the gap. You just see the gap on this chart. New York is such a big market. It's the sports tech capital of the world. Some of the best fitness tech companies come from there. What's also super interesting, you'll see the trend of top 5 cities in 2020. 4 American cities. Bangalore always gets a shout, 3rd in the overall chart. But also big in 2020. CureFit is the company that we're talking about from Bangalore, and there have been a few others. And also the diversity on this list, like you see it dominated by the US, but India, Brazil, China, all hanging around in the top 10. So interesting markets